Hi guys, it's Jim. I'm here with Steve. We're back with our weekly edition of Sports with Mono and Mono. It's December 2nd. Steve?
Hi, Jim. How are you? Very snowy night here in
Northeast.
the Northeast.
Yeah,
Football weather,
bet.
but we persevere,
The
and
show must go
the
on.
show must go on. So, what do you want to talk about?
Well, listen, this is a sports show and we might as well start off with the NFL, which is of course is sponsored by Coriano Trucking from Haverstraw, New York. So let's talk about it. Well, locally, the Jets and Giants both played their usual Sunday afternoon football game, right?
Well, let's leave with the Jets.
All right, because I got some thoughts on this too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I got a question prior to the game. Is this a trap game for the Jets? I said absolutely, no question. Bengals are 0-11 going in. Jets on a 3-game win streak. And what do? I take the Jets.
Because you didn't want to fall into, you would kill yourself if you played the trap line and they lose to the Bengals, which they shouldn't have had. And
But I
you had
should-
Andy Dalton playing, so all the cards
Well,
were
he's
stacked.
better than Ryan Finley.
Okay, well, he was yesterday anyway.
But that's the point. It's about betting in the NFL. It's like, you have these
Yep.
thoughts, you have these, unwavering, just thoughts about.
And you're looking for the bear
Trends.
trap in the snow.
And then what happens? You know what? Yeah, I think the Jets, right? Forget about it. So,
But I heard,
no, my only point is I'm watching the game, and, a quarter into it, I'm like, oh my God.
here we go. All right. Even though I don't think Darnold played a terrible game, I mean, but I did listen to a couple of things this morning, and this is driving me nuts because it drove me nuts when the Jets won 3. They were all like, "Wow, maybe they're really good. They're putting it together." And now it's Adam Gase is a bum, and Sam Darnold look horrific, and it's coaching. And this is something I wanted to bring up with you because you're a football guy. You've played it. Is holding penalties and personal fouls, is that a coaching problem? So they go, no, that's coaching. I go, that's not coaching. You don't think Adam Gase said, listen, one of the keys to the game is no turnovers, no penalties, right? Standard, pregame crap on Fox and all that stuff. It's the players. I don't even hang Gase on this one, and I didn't think Darnold played a bad game. He was throwing the ball all day long.
I mean, I'm not going to single out Adam Gase. You and I have been watching football for as long as we've been alive and can remember. Okay? So I'll go back to the 1970s, 80s, 90s.
Well, we've seen some horrific
Right,
coaches.
but the point is, I don't care what teams are out there. One team will be, 10 penalties for 120 yards. And the
That's
other
coaching,
team, Yeah, but I don't care if it's the Rams versus the San Diego Chargers in 1974.
Right.
We've seen this 1,000 times.
But don't misread me by I'm defending Adam Gase. But when it comes to holding and penalties on the football
it's on
field,
the players.
it's
is
on the
my
players.
Point. That's
Yeah.
exactly my point.
I agree.
And that's why I brought back, we've been watching this forever, right? So typically, if you're watching an NFL game and one team has 12 penalties for 100 plus yards, and
You
the
probably
other team
lose.
has 4 or 5, yeah,
You probably
chances
lose.
are you're going to lose.
Right.
Okay? So, I mean, is it out of control, the holding and personal fouls? I wouldn't say, I would say I've noticed a stark difference.
Okay. But overall, when you look at the Jets, they just don't. Le'Veon Bell has
That's
got
a
his
discipline.
usual 30 yards, and is that his fault? Is there any holes? I don't know.
No, we're not blaming Le'Veon Bell because the Jets' offensive line stinks.
It's horrible, and I get it.
And that's
But
been a common theme all year, and that's not going to change until the offseason and they address it.
right, but to lose to an 0-11 team is just inexcusable. From especially when you win 3 games in a row.
But we're talking about the New York Jets.
I know
They're
we
on
are.
a 3-game win
I
streak
know.
here, right? And then
Yep.
I didn't buy into this.
Of course
At the
not.
end of the day, the Jets will be 5-11 at best.
Exactly.
Okay, so they'll still have
Exactly.
a top 10 pick.
Exactly.
and then Coach Gase will go into the off season, and everything will be great.
Right.
But the thing about the Jets is there's a lot of free agents on this team, so they will turn that roster over. Same thing with the Giants. And segueing to the Giants, they play the Pack in the snow.
Well, it was kind of the result we expected.
Oh my God! You talk about a script.
Right. I mean,
that went right according to script.
it sure did, of course.
So the Giants, we talked about this last week. We talked about Pat Shurmur. Here's another loss.
And they look terrible.
And I tell you what, I really think Pat Shurmur's job very well may be in jeopardy.
I'm
And
starting
I
to
didn't
think,
say that a week ago.
not before the end of the season, though, right?
No. I mean, in the off season, I think Gettleman's safe. I think he's got a year. He's got $100 million. We talked about that they're going to give him rain on the draft.
I don't have a problem with Gettleman.
But I got to tell you, I think Pat Shurmur
I wouldn't be disappointed in it, actually.
maybe in more jeopardy than I thought he would be.
Okay. Well, if they don't win another game and they go 2-14, then that's ridiculous. You have to go.
Well,
you have to go.
They have a couple wins.
And take
they
James
should-
Betcher
they
with you.
should win.
Right.
They have a couple soft teams coming up. They should beat the Redskins again.
Right. Who went out and beat the Panthers? How
I
do
think
you
they have
figure
the
that?
Dolphins too. So,
Right, but they go out and beat the Eagles. So I'm so done with the Eagles. I keep falling into this trap going, there's no way Carson Wentz and the Eagles are going into Miami and are not coming out with a win, especially since the Cowboys looked ridiculous on Thanksgiving. Lose a game they probably should have won, from a matchup perspective.
Yep.
But the Bills still remains kind of, to me, the surprise team of the league. They're hanging in there.
Right.
They haven't beaten a lot of teams until Thanksgiving, but they took it to the Cowboys.
No, but back to your Eagles point.
What are we doing?
I would say 80% of the general public said the Eagles are going to Miami.
Right.
The Cowboys lost on Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And it's the only way you're making the playoffs by winning the division.
Right.
And the Cowboys lost.
And now you're 5-7.
And now you're 5-7, and you lose to the Dolphins.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Listen, I'm less than an Eagle fan, always have been, but trying to be objective here. I know Doug Peterson, won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Yep.
He's got to be scratching his head, man.
Yep.
I don't know if you're blaming injuries. I don't know if you're blaming anything, but that's a bad loss by the Eagles.
And here's another game that I kind of fell into, and I got to get off this bandwagon too. I mean, the Colts to lose at home was a kind of a surprise to me. Ryan Tannehill coming on the road. We've seen this movie before, and he took it to him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I had too much confidence in Jacoby Brissett and the Colts, but they don't. You can't lose that game at home.
I agree.
You're in the midst too. You're fighting out the Steelers for a potential wild card in this league. I was shocked.
I agree. I actually took the Colts yesterday myself.
Yep.
Thinking the same thing. But you know what? Ryan Tannehill, since he's come on for the Titans, and we're not talking about Earl Morrall here. We're not talking about, esteemed backup quarterbacks. Ryan Tannehill, again, he was a wide receiver at Texas A&M. Dolphins drafted him, and he was their quarterback, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, not his senior year at A&M. He was a quarterback.
Yeah, but he was a wide receiver.
Started
most of his career at Texas A&M. Is the point.
But I'm shocked that.
But the Titans drafted Marcus Mariota #1 in 3-4 years ago.
And we could say that experiment has probably
Not
failed.
probably. Ryan Tannehill is taking over for Marcus Mariota.
And I was very
here we are.
optimistic over Mariota. I kind of liked him coming out of Oregon. and
You
stuff,
know
right?
what? Not so good.
Exactly.
But the point is, my only point is Ryan Tannehill's played good football for the Titans. And
Okay.
the Titans...
They got a good running
And again,
game too.
listen, they're going to ride this streak as long as possible. Is he the long-term answer? Probably not, of course.
Right.
But I'm just giving you, Ryan Tannehill credit. The Titans came in, beat the Colts, and the Titans are playing well. Derrick Henry is under the radar here.
Not in our book. We know.
We loved him at Alabama. But you know what? You don't hear Derrick Henry like he did at Alabama.
Of course not.
But you know what? He's got 1,000 yards already.
Yep.
He's got double digits in touchdowns.
Oh, and that play he made last year.
And I'm
right,
not
stiff
touting
arm
the
guy.
Titans as a threat.
Either am I.
I'm just saying Ryan Tannehill did a good job
Yep.
for the last 5-6 weeks.
Okay.
And the Titans go in and beat the Colts. To your point, where they're vying for a wild card spot,
Yep.
and I think they just shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, I took it on the chin this week. A couple of games. I don't think anybody had the Redskins beating the Panthers either. I don't care if they were home.
That's another one, you know.
Right?
So if we're going to be honest here, we're not, we don't sit here and tout. We know everything. We go with our gut. Give us the information we have at hand, and we'll give you our best guess.
But here, you know what it is, Steve?
Panthers, but to your point, who had the Redskins?
Nobody.
Not I.
Nobody.
The Panthers were favored by 10 points.
But you know, Steve,
at home.
But going forward, like here we are in the last 6 weeks of the season, right? And we just talked about these trap games and so forth. Here's where you got to say, don't say, oh, this could go that way. You take the team that you think is best qualified to win, right? You don't take one of those like Redskins picking over the Panthers. You don't do that in the last 6 weeks of the season. So we'll see. It's wide open. Patriots lost, Niners lost, but your Cowboys really they look terrible on Thanksgiving. Terrible.
Listen, I'll give you my perspective as a Cowboy fan. I hope they get all this crap out of the way now, and then they light it up. Last 3 weeks of the season into the playoffs. That's me as an optimistic Cowboy fan.
No, but let's
as
talk
an objective Cowboy fan, it ain't gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen.
No, I'm glad you realize that because it's not going to happen.
It's
but
not.
the NFC is wide open. So.
But you mentioned the Niners lost. They didn't lose terribly.
No, they didn't.
Played a great game against the Ravens, 2017. That is potentially, I would think, a Super Bowl rematch, quote unquote, meaning don't be surprised. Obviously, Seattle and some other teams.
New England.
New England may have something to say about
It may
that.
be a little different this year because now New England may have to go through Baltimore to get to where
We'll
they want to be.
We'll see.
It's
but
early.
That's a good point. So
Yep.
New England, we wanted to get to that. They lose to the Texans.
Yep.
And, so Baltimore right now, as we broadcast, is quote unquote ahead of New England.
Yes.
But I think that's huge, though.
Yep.
New England does not have home field advantage. They are susceptible.
Yep.
You saw that last year against Kansas City.
And Baltimore
Again,
looks unbeatable
if D
right
Ford
now.
last year doesn't go off sides for Kansas City,
Okay, well,
they would have lost the game. Pla-
but it's New England. They get the
But they
calls.
didn't, and it's New England.
Yep.
So never discount New England. But the point is, if the game is in Baltimore as opposed to New England,
It's a big
in
difference.
the playoffs.
It's a big difference.
That's a big difference.
It
So
is a big difference.
We'll see how that plays out.
All right, so things are shaking out in the NFL,
Yeah. So the other thing too, one other game though, Nick Foles, the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Jameis Winston Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh, God, I couldn't...
Is that a sexy game? Not necessarily. But what's the storyline you took out of that? Nick Foles benched. They paid him a ton of money to come in and bench him literally in the first half. And
Is that fair? I mean, maybe he's not fully recovered. They want a return on their investment or something.
all I know is
They didn't pay him that money.
To,
He's starting the next game.
then why did they bench him? I'm just throwing that question out there.
I don't know. Maybe he's not ready. Maybe he came back too early. I don't know.
Right.
But for that kind of money, he's not sitting on the bench.
We shall see. I don't understand why they would bench him. I was just throwing
All right.
that out there.
All right.
But I thought that was interesting footnote
Okay.
yesterday in the NFL action.
Yeah, that was kind of a garbage game, too, actually. Nobody wanted to watch that.
So really, I think we just kind of sketched over the Giants.
They look terrible. There's nothing you say. The defense is terrible. They
Yeah.
went up against a good team. Green Bay's got some real good talent. Their running game is awesome.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, of course. And good wide
The
receiving
elephant in the
core.
room is Saquon. What's going on?
There's nothing. There's no holes. There's no holes to run through. He got 83 yards yesterday, all on his own. yesterday, and do
You
not
realize
dismiss
he has
this
two
guy.
touchdowns on the year.
Okay.
Do you realize?
I realize all of it.
Okay.
I realize all of it. But I'm sticking with him, and
Oh, I'm not. I'm not.
he's
Listen,
that kind of a talent,
I know.
and that's why Gettleman gets to stay, because he got him. Jones' pick is looking good, although he's playing like a rookie at times. But overall, the Jets, they're just as bad as I mean, the Giants are just as bad as the Jets.
Right, and the only reason I brought Saquon up is we're big fans here. I just think the pieces aren't there. He's a special talent, and you're seeing how important an offensive line and play action passing and having the ability. You know, if you give this guy openings,
Yeah,
you see a special talent.
he's just as frustrated as we are.
Well.
I mean, trust me. I mean, but he's a
The
player.
naysayers are starting to doubt the pick of Saquon Barkley here in year
I
two.
will never
We
recant.
are not. We're both unequivocally saying
Yep.
we're Saquon guys.
You bet.
But I had to bring that up because
Okay.
he hasn't been productive for the Giants.
Okay. Well, the whole team hasn't been productive, so
To be continued.
absolutely. So listen, let's move on to college football because there's a lot of doings there. And again, I won't bet against Nick Saban, and yet he loses to Auburn, and that takes them out of the hunt for the first time in how many years? You know?
Probably 5,
Yeah.
maybe 6.
Be unusual not seeing them.
Well, you know, Nick was crying foul, so to speak, on a couple plays here and there.
He was going bananas.
But at
on
the
that
end of
one.
the day, 48-45, Auburn, the most points ever given up in a Nick Saban
Yep.
team
Yep.
since I think he was coaching Michigan State, actually, which is well over
Oh, yeah.
20 years ago.
That's many stops ago.
So the
yeah.
point is, Auburn takes it to them. Alabama's definitely not going to be in the top 4. And they can make excuses all they want, but
Typical hard-hitting SEC
Yeah.
game, wasn't
But,
it
but
awesome?
Nick Saban's not an excuse guy. You know, actually, you know, the headlines were saying he was crying, this, that, and the other thing. And I read his transcripts and his press conference. He was just pointing out things, but at the end of the day, he tipped his hat to Auburn, this, that, and the other thing.
Right,
But
he's
Alabama is out, so that opens up the discussion
Yep.
of the top 4.
Okay.
But before we get to that,
Let's talk about that other marquee game that went
Well,
on this weekend.
that is the marquee game. You
and I watched it. There was no way we haven't missed one in 40 years.
That's
so,
right. But I think when you and I started broadcasting together, you know, which are probably coming up on about a year or so
Yep.
soon, I think like the 4th sentence of our opening salvo is Ohio State's going to beat Michigan.
Right.
in,
Again.
In November 2019.
Again.
Right? So Harbaugh is now 0-5. And listen, Jim and I are not sitting here saying we are Nostradamus, but we were adamant, both of us, and never wavered, that Ohio State was going to beat Michigan.
Again.
0-5 for Harbaugh.
Yep.
And the game was at the Big House.
Yep.
So you can actually think that next year, Ohio State will be just as loaded, and the game will be in Columbus. But the point is, Michigan gives up 50-plus points. Ohio State kicked the crap out of them. But what you could see, and again, Michigan, you know, they had their plays here and there. They could have, you know, if the ball bounced this way or whatever. No. J.K. Dobbins.
Wow, did he look great?
He looked great. But you know what? It was the Ohio State offensive line, to me, basically in the third quarter, they started showing some, like, highlights, like dominant highlights of the Ohio State line. And I'm not knocking Michigan. I'm just saying the Ohio State offensive line was just schooling these guys.
Oh,
and I'm not diminishing what J.K. Dobbins did. But listen, if you don't have the horses up front doing what they're doing, it doesn't work. And Justin Fields played well. He gets hurt late in the second half.
He's really good.
He's really good. And the next question's going to be,
Does Harbaugh survive this?
that's up to the alumni. It really is. I think Harbaugh will probably entertain NFL offers, but it's uncanny because you and I go way back. We remember Jim Harbaugh as the quarterback of Michigan.
Yep.
when we talk about a guy that bleeds a school, he bleeds a school.
No
Jim
question.
Harbaugh's father was an assistant coach under Bo Schembechler. I got recruited by Michigan. I know everything about Michigan, right?
It was his dream job.
It was his dream job,
Yeah.
NFL, etc. Comes back,
Yep.
and it's so uncanny that he's 0-5
But they
against Ohio State.
but they don't
But
have
knowing when you take the job, what is your number one accomplishment? It's not the national championship.
No, it's still beat.
It's not the
Ohio
Big Ten
State.
championship.
We know that.
Yeah, but for our
But how do you
audience,
survive 0-5? How can that possibly be
unless your
survivable?
name is Jim Harbaugh and you have the pedigree and
Okay.
you have the. So listen, Ohio State's been the better team here for all 5 years.
They look good.
But I tell you what, I don't know. Harbaugh's got a lot of explaining to do. He was very testy in his
He's
press
always testy like that.
This
But you know
more
what?
so.
They don't have any marquee guys that. Remember, there was always a dominant running back or a dominant linebacker or offensive lineman. They
Or
don't have
two or
that.
three at the same time.
Right, and they don't have that right now. And you know that you got to blame on the recruiting and so forth. But 0-5, I got to say, I don't think it's possible for him to survive this. I don't. Not even Jim Harbaugh.
No, to your point, you know, you made a comment a couple weeks ago. I think it was very poignant. I don't care what school it is, the alumni and the boosters and all this stuff.
They
they're
run the
sitting
program.
around, they run the program, and they're passing the hat around.
Yep.
What's it going to take to get this guy in? But you know what? There isn't a guy out there that has more of a Michigan
Agreed.
resume than Jim Harbaugh.
Which is the only reason that
Which makes it so funny that he's 0-5 or uncanny.
if the most powerful guy on that alumni committee is a Harbaugh guy and knows his father from the days past, then he survives. But if the young guns, you know, the new guys on the alumni committee say 0-5, inexcusable. Let's clean the slate here.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Right. So again, you know, we're not touting, but we always thought going in, Ohio State was the better team. They
Yep.
didn't disappoint. So that leads basically now to the Final Four.
Right.
So pretty much the regular season's over. You got conference championships coming up before we can determine that top four.
Right.
We have Ohio State playing Wisconsin, and here was another surprise. You know, Minnesota comes into Wisconsin, or Wisconsin comes to Minnesota,
Oh.
and Minnesota's got one loss, and looking to get to the conference championship game, and what happens?
But I think we talked about it. you know.
Wisconsin just,
They look great.
yeah, well, they annihilated them.
Yeah.
And now you got Ohio State and Wisconsin. So Jonathan Taylor is basically, you know, what the offense is for Wisconsin. So we have Ohio State, Wisconsin in the Big 10, Big 12 championship, whatever they call it now, right? So that's a marquee game. You got Oklahoma, Baylor, right? So Oklahoma beats Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
And
As
the
expected.
rematch is Baylor, 2 1-loss teams. I think the winner of this game is in consideration.
I watched Baylor. I got to say, I'm not impressed. I think Oklahoma gets by them just as Ohio State gets by Wisconsin. And
Okay.
hey, Taylor could run for 200 yards, but Ohio State's going to put up some points.
Okay.
So
And then out in the West, Utah sitting there, 1-loss Utah team who's all they've done is win, win, win. They
Yeah.
lost. They had 1 loss against USC. But if they win their conference championship, I tell you, Utah's got a case too.
that's not a good loss though against USC though. I mean, I think they could hold that against them. You know.
Yeah, but they're in discussion. Is my point.
Yeah,
So-
they're in discussion.
So the
certainly.
number 4, you know, but the team to look out in all of this, again, is just lying under the radar. Have only won 2 national championships in the last 3 years, the Clemson Tigers.
Well, I think you'd be crazy to underestimate them, but they are as good
Well,
as
they're
they
not
were
in their
last year.
discussion. That's
Right.
what they want. The
Yeah.
point is, we're talking about all the other teams and this, that, and the other thing.
Well, you and I just talked before. I think-
Clemson plays Virginia, so I just wanted before you
Oh, they'll-
make
they'll-
your comment.
they'll run wild.
Let's acknowledge Virginia. Virginia beats Virginia Tech. They lost 15 years in a row
You know.
to Virginia Tech. And
Yeah.
again, Frank Beamer was probably the coach for what,
14 of those.
13, 14, right?
Right.
But you got to give you the credit to Bronco Mendenhall. Virginia playing in their first ACC championship.
Yep.
But they're going against Clemson. I would think Clemson wins this game by 30
Yes.
minimum.
Yep.
And then they get ready. So Clemson, Clemson's not going to be the number one overall seed, which is it surprising? No. But watch out. All they do is win national championships. So,
You bet.
Whoever matches up Clemson in round
I think
one,
who sneaks in
Watch
behind before Utah, like I said, I can't see Utah, matching up against those guys. I think if Georgia beats LSU, I think LSU still gets in and Georgia gets in.
yeah, so that we were going to lead to that. So that's really what it all comes down to. LSU, they lose the conference championship game, they're absolutely still in.
Yep.
What does that mean? They'll probably be number 2 seed. Right, Ohio State would probably be number 1, beating Wisconsin, would be my guess.
I think if Georgia beats LSU, then they're the 3 seed because
No,
Clemson will
Georgia,
have to be
Georgia will be 4. If Georgia wins, they're number 4, they get in.
Right.
Then you got Clemson, Ohio State, LSU.
Right, but Clemson, Ohio State should
So
be
I
one,
would
too.
see Ohio State, Georgia, and Clemson, LSU, 2 versus 3. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I think
Okay?
you're right. Yep.
And I'm staying firm. Joe Burrow wins the Heisman Trophy.
Okay.
So if you have any questions regarding college football, the NFL,
Yep.
as always, send us an email, sportswithmono@gmail.com.
And we did bring something you and I talked about. So Rutgers they found their new head coach. Is that what I understand? This is official, or is it still in negotiation?
Yeah, so, when we broadcasted last Monday, we made the point that negotiations, quote unquote, broke off with Greg Schiano, the ex-Rutgers head coach,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. His demands were excessive and this, that, and the other thing. But we always refer to Seinfeld. We're negotiating here.
Yeah.
It's negotiating.
Negotiation.
Right. So at the end of the day, they're paying Schiano a Big Ten salary equivalent. Probably, definitely not, Urban Meyer, Dabo Swinney,
No,
Nick
no.
Saban, but pretty.
Oh, but in New Jersey again,
It will
the
be
highest paid
yeah.
state employee again.
Exactly.
Since the last
the
time.
highest compensated employee in the state of New Jersey.
All right. Well, he's got a lot of work to do because they're 2-10.
But it sounds, all signs indicate an agreement has been made. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
But this is not Rutgers or what he coached 10 years ago or how long it is. They're in the Big Ten now, so
Yep.
listen. Good luck, Greg Schiano, is all I'm going to say. So
Well, I think one of his smartest
But I
moves
think
would be to
not-
keep Nunzio Campanelli on his staff.
I was just going to get to that.
because there's a lot of good talent in northern New Jersey that he
I
can
think
get.
Nunzio would most likely stay on the staff and be his conduit for North Jersey.
Okay, I hope
again,
so.
for our audience, Greg Schiano's from Wyckoff, New Jersey. We grew up in Oakland. Nunzio is a Bergen County guy, so we have a lot of Bergen County
Yep.
contacts.
Yep.
And when we talk about, as we segue to high school football, St. Joe's and Bosco and Peters and all this is
Yep.
really a bastion of high school talent.
Yep.
But leading to that, we'll segue to our high school football segment.
Yep.
Listen, our St. Joe's Green Knights we talked about, they got knocked off by Don Bosco. Don Bosco plays St. Peter's in the state finals over the weekend. Congratulations to St. Peter's Marauders taking down Don Bosco.
Yeah, that was quite. I don't know if it was a surprise. St. Peter's was the #1 team for quite a while in this year too, and Chris Hansen. Like I said, I don't know how many he's got, but he's always having to get past Bosco
He's
and
got
Bergen and
multiple.
St. Joe's. But congratulations to them. There's some talent on that team. There's no question about it.
Absolutely. They listen.
Yep.
They played the best and beat the best, and there you go.
And listen, as far as high school goes, again, you've been on this bandwagon. You're one of your former players and led Ramapo High School to a state championship. What's that? 25 wins in a row overall.
26.
26.
Yep.
So congratulations to Charles DePrima and his family and his team.
Green Raiders knock off Parsippany Hills.
And here was another, I don't want to say sleeper, but it just doesn't happen very often. Wayne Valley won their first state title in, I think, 28 years.
Yeah.
Right, having to get past Wayne Hills every year, but they finally did it. And I know some former Wayne Valley players and so forth, and congratulations to them to get the monkey off their back.
And even Ridgewood, New Jersey won again.
Yeah.
You know, Ridgewood is a quiet town, and all they do is win. And actually, Ridgewood's like a Group 5 school. So for the fact that they won, I think they're back-to-back state champs now.
Yeah.
So, you know, in our backyard, want to acknowledge that. But back to the St. Peter's, Don Bosco, Joe's Dynamic. That is the heavyweight division of high school football in New Jersey. No question.
Of course.
So St. Peter's wins the state championship. Who did they lose to?
St. Joe's.
Who did St. Joe's lose to twice?
Don Bosco twice.
Right. Who did, Bergen beat? Beat. Who did Bergen lose to, right?
Yeah.
DePaul, right?
Exactly.
So the point is, I'm not diminishing St. Peter's whatsoever.
Nope.
But it is the absolute heavyweight division of high school football, and the fact of the matter is.
And if you brought it up before, when we talk about Rutgers being in the Big Ten, you're in the Big Ten. And these are Big Ten prospects. Right. So you better keep them home if you want to make a statement in the Big Ten.
If you can get 3 guys off of each of those teams, man.
That's 3 more than they've had in the past couple of years.
You got like 15 studs
right.
from North Jersey heading into your program.
You bet.
So.
Keep them home.
Good luck going forward, Coach Shiano. And,
okay.
So on and so forth. So that's our football segment there.
Yeah, it's good. I'm going to miss high school football. It's exciting as hell.
Yep.
The college is getting down to the wire, and the NFL starting to heat up, so we got a lot to cover over the next few shows. So.
You got it.
So listen, let's move on real quick just to some college hoops, right? And this is sponsored by Lynch Motors of Manchester, Connecticut, sponsor of ours for quite a while. So you said Louisville, number 1. But what's the one thing we talked about? Who's bringing a team back to prominence in college hoop?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's funny, how you interpret it. But anyway, Michigan.
Right. That's where I was going.
Really taking college basketball by storm. Michigan's been a good college program. John Beeline, we talked about.
Yep.
Left for the Cavaliers.
He was a good coach, good college coach.
Jim and I always made a brotherly, funny thing, watching the Fab Five of Michigan back in the early 90s. But there's one guy, Juwan Howard, who kind of goes unnoticed in that, from a Chris Webber, Jalen Rose,
right.
That type of thing.
Right.
But Juwan Howard, serviceable career, NBA, Miami Heat.
Played forever.
And then, Jim and I saw him at a live Nets game or something.
You remember that, huh?
Of course. But the point is, Juwan Howard winds up becoming the head coach of Michigan.
Yeah.
This is his first year. However, I just saw a stat. So they were unranked Michigan. Why? Because Juwan Howard is the coach, number 1. But the point is, they've gotten off to a great start. But they're ranked 4th in the country now from not being ranked maybe 2 weeks ago. So you have to credit Juwan Howard. And I tell you what, I just saw a piece on ESPN. The guy played at Michigan, this, that, and the other thing.
Oh, they're very loyal to their alumni.
The point is, watch out for Michigan.
Yeah.
I think they got the enthusiasm level, and we wanted to bring up Juwan Howard and Michigan, so keep an eye on them come March Madness.
And I think the interesting thing about college basketball this season, right? I mean, we've seen some crazy upsets, right? Kentucky losing and Duke losing, so
Not
it doesn't
only
seem
losing,
to be those
Kentucky lost to Evansville and Duke lost to Stephen F. Austin. And Duke, and since we broadcast, let's bring that up. Duke lost for the first time in 150 games
against non-conference opponents at home
at Cameron Indoor.
Yep.
First time since 2000. I think that was in pretty stark.
Yeah. But that's
Thing.
my point is that college basketball seems very wide open, and that's awesome, right? There doesn't seem to be the one team that stays on top, goes, 18-0, but it's wide open. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So as we broadcast, Louisville's number 1, Kansas number 2, Maryland 3, Michigan we just talked about 4, right?
Maryland hasn't been up there in quite a while. So.
And then rounding out the top 10, you got your Duke at 10. You got Carolina in the mix, but
Yep.
you still have a cast of characters there.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. But yeah, I would say right now there's no clear consensus Fab Five type of thing in college basketball, but we'll monitor.
Yep.
So speaking of basketball, you must be psyched that Carmelo Anthony is back with the Portland Trailblazers. And Carmelo, by the way, was just named Player of the Week. What do you think of that, Jim?
It's hard for me to believe, and I'm not saying the guy wasn't a great player. He was a really good player, but he hasn't played in 2 years, and he goes to a team that made the, conference finals last year. I don't know. Did they lose people they needed to put seats in the building? I don't know. Put butts in the seats? I don't know. I find it to be ridiculous.
Comical. I find it to be absolutely comical.
And they're probably paying him what? How much?
Carmelo commands a
$4 million,
healthy salary.
right? $4 million.
Yeah.
Which made me laugh because when you brought up the Juwan Howard sitting on the bench, and you and I went to a Nets game. I forget what team he was playing for, but Larry Brown was the coach.
Absolutely.
And we were laughing, going, they must be paying Juwan Howard $5 million a year. And this was, 15 years ago we did that?
Gotta be.
With a sweatsuit on, and he never even got off the bench. Never had one iota of a chance he was going to go in the game.
Right. So if you're in Vegas right now, it might be worth putting $10 down on Michigan winning the national championship. Compliments of Sports with Mono.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. All right? So,
I actually may put $10 on
right.
Michigan.
well, so we're certainly going to touch more and more on. We could skip the NBA for now because there's really nothing else going on. The Knicks are 4 and what?
4 and change. Yeah. What else is going on? Lakers are 17-2. They're off to a pretty good start.
Yeah.
What else?
It's what the league wanted.
We talked about Luka Doncic. He's good.
He's very good.
Ja Morant for Memphis. He's
Out a few weeks.
He's out a few weeks, but really, in the couple weeks, into the NBA season, he's proven his wares. Where this guy's going to be really talented. There's really nothing. Giannis is Giannis. There's really no. Groundbreaking news right now. Celtics.
The first half of the NBA season is just really.
It's Harlem Globetrotters versus the Washington.
Who pays attention at this point? When it's the 3 quarters in and there's a playoff stretch and then there's playoffs.
Well, we do here at Sports with Mono and Mono. That's for damn sure.
Right.
Right. Because we stay up and watch the LA Clippers versus the.
Exactly. Right.
No, but I mean. The Golden State Warriors got the worst record in the NBA.
Right.
Can you believe we're even saying that? Literally, not even 2 years out.
Well, lose your marquee guys, and this kind of tells you what the And if general manager LeBron James for the Lakers, wants to get Ja Morant next year, all Ja Morant has to say is, "You're the missing piece. Come play with us," and they'll make it happen. It's crazy.
But wouldn't that be funny if the Golden State Warriors had the worst record in the NBA and got the most ping pong balls, and lo and behold, with the number 1 pick in the NBA draft in 2020, the Golden State Warriors select. Right?
Yeah.
And what am I leading to? The New York Knicks of futility for 20 plus years. Right? Where...
Well, they'll get the number 2 pick and draft some guy from France, or whatever.
Exactly. Frederick Weiss's younger brother, cousin.
Okay, exactly. Yeah.
So.
And I don't see Steph Curry rushing to get back in,
As long as Steph can golf, and
exactly.
He's fine.
He might as well work on his golf game.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
So.
All right, so we covered that stuff pretty good. But if you guys have comments or you NBA fans really would like to, poke the fire, send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com or respond to us on YouTube or SoundCloud. We'd be happy to spend a few more minutes talking about it.
No doubt.
So
that being said, so I wanted to jump back to football.
go ahead.
So this week there was an announcement, and again, you know what? And I think at some point Jim and I are going to do a show. Once it's all calculated, the NFL Network is doing this all-time NFL team,
Yeah.
etc. by positions and stuff.
Yeah.
I think once it's all announced and then Jim and I have a chance to look at it, I think we're going to actually do a show about it and yay, nay, and this, that, and the other thing, and we'll give you our opinions. But, the defensive linebackers actually just came out.
And what's the first thing I said to you? I said if Bob Lilly and Merlin Olsen and Bruce Smith and Reggie White and Lawrence Taylor aren't on that list,
we're not talking
then we're
about
not talking about it. So thankfully somebody, brought some
clarity
to this. So
Right.
those are the guys, and they belong there, and,
Oh,
and
God,
we,
yeah.
sure. But
And linebackers, Buckus, to Ray Lewis, to Taylor, like you said. I mean, the names are there: Jack Ham, Lambert.
if one of the names was Howie Long or Warren Sapp or Dan Hampton, which you prodded me before the show to say
Right.
he was the number one lineman of all time, I said you're joking.
I did
And he
kid
said,
my
"Of course
brother.
I'm
I
joking."
did kid my brother when.
And I pulled a Ralph Cramden and say, "What are you trying to do? Give me a heart attack or
Right.
something?"
But at the end of the day, we still didn't
Yep.
say Joe Klecko's name. So that's something, here on Sports with Mono Mono, and especially Jim has been championing Joe Klecko.
Yeah.
You know,
For the Hall of Fame.
we want him in the Hall of Fame. Whether he's all time, that's a different
All
story.
right. Well, I didn't see the full list, so I don't know.
John Randall was the name, though, I
Okay.
brought up. Right?
And again, we talked about that. I'm saying when you bring up guys like Bob Lilly and Bruce Smith and Reggie White, and then you throw John Randall in there with Merlin Olsen, I don't
Well,
know.
again, we'll do another show. But I will say this. One of the names that I was thrilled that was not on, Michael Strahan, the all-time single-season sack leader in NFL history.
Yeah. I thought about that yesterday.
Wow.
When they
Thank
were playing,
God.
when they were playing the Packers in Giant Stadium, and I looked at my brother. We were at the game, and I said, "It's Michael Strahan's not going to get the sack record." And then Brett Favre took a rollout and took a powder and gave him the record. And just for the record, I can't stand Strahan on television, whatever.
Personality.
But when he came up, and I actually said this kid's a good player, and he did. He had some really good years for the Giants, but Hall of Fame, I got to question it. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I got to question it.
So I'm not discounting that he was a good player, but I am not a Michael Strahan fan whatsoever, and I'm so thankful
Yep.
that.
But that's a good idea.
That's
Let-
the type of name that doesn't deserve to be on this
not with the guys that we
all
mentioned.
time.
Right.
With Chuck Bednarik and names like that.
Butkus
Not
and
happening.
all these guys, of course. But you know what? Let's see if that's a good idea. Let's do a whole show on this once it all comes out and so forth,
Yeah.
and we'll go through just like we did with our Hall of Fame picks. When the nominees come out, we go yes, of course, not. What are you kidding me? That kind of thing. Good.
And that's the kind of interaction we want with our audience, right? So
Yeah.
we would love, do a show like that and give us your
Because it's
thoughts.
possible we could miss or overlook somebody,
True.
But we won't overlook the glaring mistakes of when they name certain guys to this, like we see in the Hall of Fame.
That's
Yeah.
the easy part.
Right.
So,
All right. But
you got any shout outs out there?
I do. I have a couple of friends of mine that I used to work with, and Jet Dowdy and Ed Miller.
Right.
And they're going to start listening to the show because they're colleagues with Jim Smith, who's been a loyal listener of ours. So,
Cowboy fan Jim Smith?
yes, very loyal Cowboy fan. But these two guys, Jet and Ed, are good friends of mine. I worked with them for a long time, and they're going to be fans of our show going forward.
Awesome.
So shout out for those.
Good.
And of course, our shout out is sponsored by D. Filippi's Bakery of Monticello, New York, who I'm sure they just had quite a whirlwind busy season and Thanksgiving. Record number of pies.
Oh yeah, that absolutely was. And in fact, I was just fortunate enough to have the blueberry crumb over the holiday season.
So did I.
And some other goodies, but
Yeah, no, thank you for that.
one shout out I'd like to do, and again, thank you D. Filippi's for sponsoring our show. We always appreciate it. But my shout out is to Long Island, New York, to James Walsh, Irishman. I actually know Jim from my day job, but Jim is a loyal fan of our show, and he emails us, gives us great feedback.
Yes, he does.
And he's sharing the show with his Irish contingent out on the island.
Love getting an email from him.
We love Jim Walsh, and I wanted to shout out to Jim and say thank you for your patronage, and keep listening, pal, and we appreciate it.
Excellent. So listen, thanks for joining us this week. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, and Steve, I can't think of anybody I'd rather talk sports with than you. So, but we really do want our fans to chime in and send us emails or comments, because that's what it's all about, right?
You got it. And we appreciate any thumbs up on SoundCloud and YouTube. You can find us there as always.
Yep.
And we'll catch you on the next show. We will always thank you for listening.
Okay.
And stay safe here in North Jersey as the snow is pounding as we speak.
Yeah, first one of the year.
But the show must go on.
And
so,
it does.
Thanks,
All right, guys.
everybody.
Thanks for joining us. We'll catch up to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.